For a session presented by Viasat, please welcome the Senior Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer of Viasat, Meherwan Polad, in conversation with Skift's Senior Branded Content Editor, Darren Free.
Meherwan, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing good, excited to be here.
Yeah, that's great. We have, we're kicking off or about an hour into final the last of the show. So wanted to talk with you about in-flight Wi-Fi. 20 years ago, in-flight Wi-Fi wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
We learned how to live without it. I think, disconnecting and, reading novels on the plane, whatever you want to do. Today, passengers expect fast and free Wi-Fi, and that expectation continues to rise. But the reality is that, not every airline has a consistent experience. And so is that really, what's behind that? Is that about the tech? Is that about just how quickly the airlines are choosing to roll it out?
Yeah. No, the tech is there, and it's been there a while. And going back 15 years ago, back into the 2000s, it wasn't there. The internet available on planes back then was such that if a lot of people used it, it would stop working because it would just get congested. And it was also really expensive. And what we've changed over the last decade or so is bringing on a technology that will allow everybody to use it and everybody to do whatever they want. And now we've got about over 4,000 aircraft in service with our Wi-Fi. And of that, over 1,000 are free. And when I say free, I mean what we call full fast free, which means everybody can use the internet and everybody can do what they want on the internet, and it's free to them. And by this time next year, I think it'll probably be more than half our aircraft that'll be free because more and more airlines are going free. And the variability that really comes in terms of who's offering it free comes from what an airline's priorities are and what the timeline is in terms of how they want to implement that. And they're all different from that perspective. One thing I've learned in this industry is that once you've understood one airline, you've understood one airline. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah, a lot of the airlines, you have to be part of the loyalty program to get the Wi-Fi. When I think about in-flight Wi-Fi, I think about, checking my emails, streaming, these days, doom scrolling, of course. Mm-hmm. But, there are other things that in-flight Wi-Fi, a fast, reliable connection unlocks. Can you talk a little bit about the sort of opportunities that exist?
Yeah, look, for passengers, it essentially means, what does it mean? It means they want to be able to do whatever they do at home, and they want to go beyond that, right? And there's an opportunity to put more premium kind of offerings in front of them. And when I say being able to do whatever they want to at home, it's about, surfing the internet, it's about watching videos, watching Netflix or whatever you want to, doing all your business applications, right? It used to be, again, going back 15, 20 years ago that, business would come to a stop when you boarded a plane. The biggest decision you had to make on the plane was peanuts or pretzels. And now I keep hearing, I keep getting messages about people about, hey, you know what, I closed this 7-figure or 8-figure or even 9-figure deal while actually flying. You can actually do business and you can watch all your entertainment and stuff. And that's what it is for passengers. For airlines, connectivity isn't really an end in itself, right? It's a means to an end. And what the end is really is, hey, you want to create loyalty for the airline, you want to create monetization opportunities, and you want to raise NPS scores, and you want to be able to create revenues through sponsorship and advertisements, and those are the things, right? Profitability and competitiveness in the end. And for advertisers, it's really interesting, right? Because the opportunity is there it's never been there before. We're the first ones doing dynamic advertising in the air, connected to the connectivity, right? That's actually, it can change based on what advertisement you put on based on destination or the event at the destination and so forth. So it's really a chance for brands to connect with passengers while they're flying in a way that never happened before. And these are long flights, obviously, right? I mean, you can have 1 hour flight, but you can have an 8, 10, 12-hour flight as well. So it's a real opportunity to engage with passengers.
Mm-hmm. But do you have an example of the type of advertisement that might sort of show up for someone traveling to a certain destination?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we've done some really cool things. I think one of the best examples is during the Boston Marathon, right? The Boston Marathon's going on. As I said, the advertising is dynamic based on the destination and and what event is over there. So who's going to be interested in the Boston Marathon? Obviously, shoe companies, athletic attire, those kinds of things. And they all approached us on those. And then there was an opportunity to go beyond that because they realized that, hey, the Boston Marathon, where else are the marathons? When are they happening? So doing it based on events or being it based on some category of events is really interesting. We've had the big survey companies come up to us, for doing B2B surveys, especially when it comes to doing the big conferences, in the Bay Area or in New York or in Los Angeles, and they want to do stuff around that. The World Cup is going to be a fantastic opportunity, of course, around that. When CES happened in Las Vegas, we did a takeover of all the flights and the airports for advertising for particular tech companies that wanted to advertise in there.
Okay, so I've heard you say before that you don't consider yourself a service provider as much as a partner for these advertisers and brands. Are there any other kinds of ways that you're working with airlines to help sort of engage travelers in the air?
Yeah. Look, as I said, once you know one airline, they each have different goals, and one airline might, one particular airline might be focused on, hey, I just want to give the internet for free to everybody. And once they're giving it for free to everybody, they may want some monetization in return, so maybe you put an ad in front of it. Others may not want to pay for it, but they want to have it available to their passengers, for a price. But then they want to make a whole bunch of other free options, right? Because you don't want to put a system on your plane which only 5% of people are going to use. And who wants to do that, right? You want 60, 70, 80%, you want the whole plane to be using it. So you can have a bunch of other free options. They could be entertainment-based, they could be connectivity-based, you could offer limited free internet. And so it's the whole range of options. So as an example, we have an airline that just makes it free and there's an ad in front of it. At the other end, there's an airline that, hey, it's paid, but hey, you can watch an ad and get a 15-minute free session. You can watch multiple ads in the middle of long-form entertainment or other, or TV, various things like that. So it's the whole range of options, and it's really what the airline is trying to achieve in the end from it.
And so do you have a team that works with the airlines closely to, customize those plans?
Absolutely, yeah. It's you go through it and you sit down with an airline and you figure out what do they want to achieve, and then what is the business model that matches that. And the key thing to be able to do that is being able to match whatever bandwidth you're providing the plane to whatever the demand is, and the demand is generally going to be related to what the business model is. But one thing for sure, right? The internet is big and it's getting bigger. So the demand for bandwidth is constant, just like it is on the ground. It's constantly growing in the air.
I know we weren't going to talk about the technology behind it, but I do want to just briefly touch on that, the sort of combination of low Earth orbit and geostationary satellites that you use, and how that combination, is beneficial and competes with someone like Starlink that uses a wider network.
And so the key thing really is having the right amount of bandwidth in the right place at a time, right? Because you want an experience that's really great, and you want it to be consistently great. You don't want it to be such that, hey, when you're flying over New York or over London or on a busy route between Chicago and Los Angeles, that you run out of bandwidth. Running out of bandwidth is the fail case. Running out of bandwidth in a particular time or at a particular place is a fail case. So you want to make sure you have a combination of satellites and you have a difference. And using GEOs and LEOs together, we think is the best way of doing it. And GEOs have a lot more ability to flex capacity into certain regions. So it's great for the heavy bandwidth part of things like video usage. LEOs may be better at something like, hey, the startup of a video. So being able to use them in combination and separate it out by application and the time and place, that's what we're doing.
Okay. And, back to sort of the, beyond airlines, beyond serving airlines, what other brands or what other types of companies are you working with to enhance that traveler experience?
Yeah, so at Viasat, we're about 1/4 to 1/3 aviation company. And that's where we've really found this niche for advertising that's really been cool. But we have a bunch of other verticals, including maritime, including government. And we've been stretching ourselves to get into doing some of these things over there, entertainment-based offerings, advertising-based offerings. Right now, the aviation space has definitely been a focus just because it's such a special audience, right? I mean, in this room, we all know how special travel is, and there are special moments when you travel, and it's an upmarket audience, it's a dedicated audience, a captive audience, and you tend to be emotional while you're traveling. At least I do. I'll tell you.
Do you cry with movies? And
oh my God, amazing that you said that,
yeah.
because there was this movie. It was called not 1,000 Mile, 100-Foot Journey. 100-Foot Journey. Yeah. It was this movie about this Indian family in France that was living. They opened an Indian restaurant right across from a 5-star Michelin restaurant, and it was a nice movie. And I started crying while watching it on a flight. And I'm like, what am I doing crying?
I mean, how many of you have been there crying on it? Yeah, we've all been there.
It was actually a very telling moment for me because it reminds you how emotional you are when you're traveling. And I don't use the word emotional as a negative. I think, I'm an emotional guy and I'm proud of it. And, and it reminds you that during, a flight, you have those emotions, and it's a great time to connect, for an advertiser to want to connect with you with a brand because you have those emotions. Yep. And you'll connect to something that you may not have realized that you had that connection to. So it actually really emphasized to me how important that connection kind of is while you're traveling.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I remember crying. I think I watched a horror movie, and I ended up, crying at the end. But so yeah, the last thing we have time for one more question. I just want to talk about, what are you excited about looking ahead, but also, are we close to having sort of free, fast, ubiquitous Wi-Fi everywhere?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we've changed the market from that. I told you a long time ago internet was slow and expensive. Now it's fast, and you can offer it in a way that everybody can use it, and you can do it in a way so that even if everybody on the plane is using it, everybody on the plane is watching Netflix, it'll still work. And that changes everything. And the key thing is putting equipment on your plane, a technology that can evolve with usage, because don't ever bet on internet usage going down, right? It's more and more people want to connect all the time, and each person wants to do more and more. So that technology's got to continue to evolve. And that's what we're excited about, bringing more and more of our satellites and our partner satellites into space so that we can keep up with that. And we're seeing that. I told you, at the start of the conversation about today, it's about 1,000 aircraft out of 4,000 that are free. I think in 3 years' time, we'll probably be at about 3,000 out of 6,000 that are free. And that's way over 1 billion passengers in the air. That's like 1 billion, 1.5 billion passengers annually. So the opportunity to really connect with those passengers is pretty amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Meherwan.
Thank
We're
you,
out of time, but if you'd like to learn more, scan the QR code or visit viasat.com.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks.